Fam, think about the last time you got off a treadmill and the screen said 500 calories. You probably felt good about that number, and you should have. You earned that number. But here's the problem, that number is not a receipt, it is a guess. And honestly, that machine is not even the biggest thing working against you. And I'm going to tell you what I used to do. When I was prepping for a bodybuilding show, I guess two shows, my cardio actually looked like this. Up in the morning, no food, 20 minutes to 45 minutes. Then I trained. Then after the workout, I go work, check on crews, come back, and then do another 30 to 45 minutes. I'll do this for about 5 to 6 days a week, every week. So if you do the math, that is over an hour of cardio a day on top of lifting and on top of just working. So that was my normal for months. And by the end of my prep, my shins were hurting. My feet were hurting because a lot of fat, you burn a lot of fat underneath your feet. And I still don't know if it was my shoes or it was just that my body was tired and it had stopped actually fixing itself. So probably my guess is it's probably both. So, and then one week, I've told you about this story a couple of times. And one week from the show, one week, I ordered a Domino's pizza. And I'm not telling you that so that you feel sorry about me or anything like that, but I still got on stage. And when I got on stage, I realized that the prep worked for what it was built for. And I'm telling you this because that is the most cardio I have done in my life ever. And it's also the version of me that I wouldn't even hand over to you or even wish you even had to experience. Because you're not prepping for a show. You have a job, you have kids, you have a life outside of the gym. You have 3 days a week if you're lucky. And you need the fat to come off in a way that does not cost you your shins, your sleep, or your Tuesday night. So, here is what I'm going to give you today. You will know how much cardio you actually need, what kind of cardio you need to do, and why the hours you have already put in did not show on your body. That is it. That is the whole promise for today. So, welcome to another show, another episode of Fitness Thursday on Anchor Daily with Nate Mlambo. On this show, I expose the lies we're told about our health and wellness, and I share with you how to steward your life like God intended. So, fam, as you come in, as you join us, hit the like, subscribe, share button. If you haven't subscribed, because I know most people that watch this show actually haven't been subscribed yet. So, wherever you're watching from and wherever you're listening from, if you're just listening on audio, make sure to hit that subscribe button. So, follow, subscribe, like, share, bookmark it so that you can come back to this amazing episode. It's going to have some things that I expose that are going to start making sense for your own life. So make sure to do that as you come in. So let's do that. Let's tell the algorithm that, hey, let's get this show off the ground and let's make sure that we get more of these recommendations as well, because that's what the algorithm does. So it could be my show or other shows, but similar content. So make sure to hit that like, make sure that you follow. Anyway, so I know you know what to do. You know what to do. Okay, so fam, one thing before we start. So 27, hold on to that number, 27. Around probably halfway mark, I'm going to tell you where that number comes from. And it changed the way that I look at every calorie number on every machine and every watch or any fitness tracker that you wear. So don't let me forget it. And if I get to about the halfway mark, about 30-minute mark, and I have not said anything about it, just make sure to put it in the chat and I'll know I have to get to that. So, what are the things as well before we just so that I know how many minutes of cardio did you do last week? Last week, how many minutes of cardio did you do last week? Not what you meant to do, what you actually did. And zero is an answer because zero is very common. I've had some weeks where I had zero. So put that number in. Just put it. Doesn't matter. No judging. It happens. So before we get into the lies, I want to give you the idea about what this whole show sits on. And it's one passage. We're not staying here for long. We'll move forward because right here, Paul is writing to the church in Corinth and he uses two pictures A, a runner, and B, a boxer. So if you read that verse, read that again. If you're watching, if you're listening only, I'll read it for you. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control. Let's read that again and notice what he's proud of. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air. I discipline my body and keep it under control. That's 1 Corinthians 9, verse 26, 27. So he's not bragging about how hard he trains. He's bragging about aiming. He names the way people fail, and the way people fail is not laziness. It is effort pointed at nothing. This is common. If you've ever gotten into business, started a business, common mistake a lot of people make. It's not that people are not hardworking, but sometimes you aim at the wrong target. That's why goal setting is so important. So running with no finish line is what he's pointing out here. And throwing punches at the air. That is a person who's working extremely hard and hitting nothing at all. Fam, I want you to sit with that for a second. Because I think most people doing cardio right now are boxing the air. They're not lazy. They're probably up at 5 a.m. They are sweating. They are tired. They are putting in a real work. And the work is aimed at nothing. So nothing happens. And then they blame themselves for the one thing that was never the problem. Sweat itself is not the score. Direction is the score. And then the second half of that verse, he disciplines his body and keeps it under control. Under control. Not worshipped, not hated, controlled. Your body is a tool you were given for a life you were called to live. It is not a trophy. And it is not your enemy. That is the whole reason we care about this episode and why we care about Fitness Thursday. Not so you look a certain way in July, so that at 55, at 65, you can carry your own suitcase up the stairs, get off the floor without using your hands, and still be useful to people who need you. So that is the last time I'm going to preach to you today. Now let's get into the lies. Okay, so let me show you what this actually looks like in a real week. Because I do not think the problem is that people do not understand cardio. I think the problem is that nobody has ever walked them through the whole day. And I'm going to make somebody up. She's not real. but we have Emily. We've talked about Emily before. And Emily is 38 years old. She works in HR, two kids, 9 and 6. Husband travels a lot. She has about 45 minutes for herself on a good day. And she has decided to spend all of it on losing 20 pounds. So here's a Tuesday. Alarm goes off at about 5:15. So she does not want to go, and she goes anyway. And I want you to give her credit because most people, they don't. They just sit in, they just sleep in, pull the covers, and just sleep. So she's on the elliptical by 5:40. 45 minutes, then the screen says 512 calories. She feels great because she has already won the day. And it is 6:30 in the morning. Now, here's the part nobody actually films. She gets the kids out the door, she gets to her desk, and by 10:30, she's hungrier than she normally is. Not starving, just a little bit more hungry, a little earlier. So she has a second coffee with the flavored creamer instead of the black one. That sweetness, that creamy flavor. Then lunch, she's still hungry after lunch. So maybe she has a granola bar from the drawer with the yogurt, maybe. Then around 3 p.m., she is really hungry. And probably there are cookies at work in the break room. She walks by, excuses herself to go to the washroom. She grabs two. None of that felt like a binge. Not one of those calories or those choices actually felt like she's breaking a diet. And that is exactly why she'll never catch it. And here's the second part nobody films. Emily is a walker. On a normal day, she does about 9,000 steps just from living, school, office, groceries, stairs. On elliptical days, she does 4,000. Not because she's lazy, because she's tired. She takes the elevator. She parks close. She sits on the couch at 8 p.m. instead of walking the dog. And the husband takes the dog. Her body got the message that a lot of energy went out this morning. And her body quietly tuned everything else down. She has no idea that this is happening. A lot of people, most people, have no idea that this is happening. There is no alarm for it. And then Thursday. Thursday is one of her 3 lifting days. And Thursday has her legs, and Thursday on her legs are done. So she goes lighter. Or she does maybe 30 minutes instead of 50. Or she skips it and tells herself she'll make it up Saturday. And Saturday, there is a birthday party. She can't miss it. Now look at a week from a distance. She did 5 cardio sessions. She feels like she trained 6 days. She's tired all the time. And on the scale, 9 weeks in, she's down maybe 2 pounds. And one of those pounds was water. So what does the internet tell Emily to do? more, obviously. Add a sixth day. Add a sixth day. Go longer. Do a class. Try the Stairmaster, the stair machine. The whole industry has exactly one answer for a person who is not losing fat. And the answer is always do more of the thing that is already not working or damaging you at worst. Fam, that is lie number one. And it is the biggest one. Let's read it out. Okay. If the fat isn't coming off, it means I'm not doing enough cardio. I need to add more days or go longer. I want you to hear how reasonable that sounds. That is not a dumb belief, that is math. Double down, right? Cardio burns calories. Fat loss needs burned calories. So more cardio equals more fat loss. If that was wrong, why does that sound so right? So hold that. We'll come back to it. Let's come back to it in about 10 minutes. The second lie. There is a fat burning zone. If I keep my heart rate low and go long and do it first thing before I eat, my body burns fat instead of sugar. So that cardio counts more. You heard that, right? Let's read it again, second time. There is a fat burning zone. If I keep my heart rate low and go long, or do it first thing before I eat, my body burns fat instead of sugar. So that cardio counts more. You have seen this, I'm sure. It is printed on the side of the treadmill. There is a chart. There is a shaded band that says fat burn, and above it, a band that says cardio. And the whole design of that sticker tells you that if you stay in the shaded part, you are melting fat. And if you go above it, you're wasting your time. So someone in the chat right now has probably been chasing that sticker for years. So you have to be honest with yourself. If this is you chasing that zone, type zone in the comments or chat. If that sticker has actually changed how you train, like type it in the chat. Let's see how many people look at it. Because I will tell you in a minute why that sticker is not lying to you and it is still going to cost you. The third lie is, I'll probably say that this is not for Emily. This one is for the guys, including myself. Cardio eats more muscle. Cardio eats your muscle. If I want to keep what I have built, I should barely do any. Just lift and let the diet handle the fat. Ooh, that one. I fell into that one. That was my probably early days of lifting. I used to believe that. I'd say cardio eats your muscle. If I want to keep what I've built, I should barely do any. Just lift and let the diet handle the fat. Typically, this lie, I'll talk about it later. I'll tell you exactly what's going on with that one. So let me make up someone else. We're going to look at Marcus here for a second. So Marcus, he's 41. lifts 3 days a week, has 4 years, and he is strong, genuinely strong. He can probably put up 315 on his back. Marcus has not done cardio in 6 years because he read one article in 2019 that said cardio kills gains. Last month, Marcus carried a suitcase up one flight of stairs at the airport and had to stop at the top and act like he was checking his phone. Strong and out of breath after one flight of stairs. So hold on to Marcus. I'm coming back to him. So those are the three, and more is better. We've got one, more is better. There is a magic zone. Cardio eats muscle. Those are the three lies, the three big lies. So here's what I need you to feel before we go any further, because this is the part that actually matters. What does it cost you to keep believing these? What does it cost you to keep believing in these lies? It costs you 9 weeks, then it costs you 9 more. Because you'll try again in January. It also costs you your mornings, which is the only quiet hour some of you actually get. It also costs you your knees and your shins if you're unlucky. And here is the worst one. The real price. It costs you the belief that it costs you the belief that this works at all. And that it doesn't work at all, sorry. Because after enough of that, you do not conclude my plan was wrong. You conclude my body is broken. And a person who believes their body is broken stops trying. They're like, oh, it's just me. I mean, there's genetics for sure. They play a factor, but for most people, you can do the best that you can and make the most of what you have. And you will look pretty good and you'll lose weight. So that is the real price. Not the fat, it's the quitting. So we're going to take the three lies apart, and then I'm going to give you one idea that explains all three at the same time. So stay with me as we go through this. So 27. We're doing pretty good. About the 30-minute mark. Yeah, we're doing pretty good. So 27, I told you. In 2017, let's just say 2017, researchers at Stanford took 7 of the most popular wrist trackers on the market, Apple Watch, Fitbit, and a whole shelf of other trackers. They put them on 60 people and they tested 2 things. Can this watch read your heart rate? And can this watch tell you how many calories you burned? Heart rate, they're good. Very good, actually. Because that is a real sense of doing a real job. Calories burnt? None of the 7 was acceptable. Not even one. The best one, the most accurate device out of all the 7 was off by about 27%. It was off by 27%. And the worst one was off by more than 90%. So sit with the best one for a second. 27%. That means when your watch says 500, The honest answer is somewhere between 365 and 635. We're really not sure at this point, plus or minus. And that is the good one. Bear in mind that is the winner. Now, think about what you do with that number. You do not treat it like a guess at this point. You treat it like money in the bank. You had 500 calorie morning, so you can have a muffin. You burnt the 500 on elliptical or treadmill, so you decide to take the muffin and eat the muffin. That is not a small mistake, because that is a 500 calorie decision made on a number no one can actually measure. And so here is what I want you to catch. The machine being wrong is annoying. It is not the reason you are stuck, though. Because even if the machine was perfect, if a scientist stood next to Emily's elliptical with a mask on her face and measured every breath and said, Emily, you burned exactly 512 calories, I'm certain, she would still be stuck. And that is the real thing I want to give you today. You do not get paid for calories you burn. You get paid for the calories you burn minus the ones your body quietly takes back over the next 23 hours. It's the balance. So your body has to file for a refund. It does not argue with you. It does not send you a warning signal, a notice. It just quietly claws it back and takes back what it's owed. In the hours after you get off that machine, after you get off that treadmill, after you get off that elliptical or the bike, and your body is extremely good at it. That is actually not a design flaw. This is thousands of years of your body being very good at not letting you starve. We thrive on energy. We need energy. So the number that matters was never the one on the screen, but the number that matters is what you actually kept. So tell me in the chat, like, have you ever gone and done morning cardio and before your day starts, you're already feeling tired or hungry or sleepy, like you want to go back to bed? Does that ever happen to you? Let me know. Put something in the comments or in the chat. So let's go back to Emily for a bit here. So she burned 512 calories. And let's be generous and say that was real for her, just for argument's sake. Then she ate about 300 extra calories across the day without noticing in coffee creamer and a granola bar and say 2 cookies. We're being generous here. Then she moved 5,000 fewer steps, which is maybe another 200 calories. Then she lost a lifting session on Thursday, which costs her muscle over time, let's say, which is the thing that was supposed to protect her. So 500 out, 500 back. She paid with her morning, her energy, and her Thursday. And the account balance did not move. So she did not fail. She just refunded back and got the refund. The refund came back in. So now let's go back to the stick here, to the sticker on the treadmill. And here's the thing that makes this one a little bit hard. It is true. When you go slow, easy, a bigger share of energy you're actually using comes from fat. When you go hard, a bigger share comes from sugar that is stored in your muscles. So you've got your glycogen stores in your muscles. That is real. That is measurable. And we're not disputing that. But watch the trick here. A bigger share of a smaller pie. So walking easy for 30 minutes, maybe 60% of that energy comes from fat. Running hard for 30 minutes, maybe 35% comes from fat. But you burned way more total in the second one. So even at the smaller share, you often end up burning about the same amount of fat or more. And that is still not the main point, because here is the part that actually decides it. Your body does not do the books hour by hour to balance everything out. It does the books over the whole day and the whole week. So your routines actually matter, because even if you missed one day, you do it another day, it balances it out. It balances itself out over time. So if you burn more sugar during your workout, your body burns more fat later while you're sitting at your desk answering emails, probably. It evens things out, right? So you do not get to pick the fuel, and you do not need to actually pick it on your own. But as long as you do what you're supposed to do, it works out. That's all you have to do. So which brings us to the fasted cardio question, because this is where somebody always finds me. And doing cardio, I mean, not always finding, but sometimes people have questions. So, so doing cardio before you eat is something that I also believed in. And that was me when I was doing contest prep for bodybuilding. Every morning, no food for months. So the best test we have on this is small. And I want to say that loud instead of hiding it. So 20 women, 4 weeks, everyone eating the same calories. Half did cardio fasted, half did it after a meal. Both groups lost fat. There was no meaningful difference between them. 20 women and 4 weeks is not the final word on anything. So I'm not going to tell you that science has settled this forever, because it has not. New studies always keep coming out. But when you line up with everything else that we know, the honest read is this: what you eat over the week decides the fat loss. When you do the cardio, when you do the cardio, decides how the cardio feels. So here is where I land. And this is me, not the research. Fasted cardio is not magic. It is also not a crime. If training on an empty stomach feels good and gets you out the door, do it, depending on your schedule as well. If it makes you dizzy and wrecked and starving by 10 a.m., you're not missing out on anything. Eat something and just go train. So I did fasted cardio for years, thinking the fasted part was doing the work. It was not really. The deficit is actually what does the work. So the fasted part was just me just doing it hungrier. Not that it really helped me with anything outstanding, but yeah, the more you know, the better. So now let's look at Marcus again. I said I was coming back for him. So line number 3 says cardio eats your muscle. So I need to be fair here, because this one is not made up out of nothing. There is something real underneath. And when you do a lot of hard running, and you also want your legs to get stronger, the running does get in the way. Leg day, it takes 3, 4 days to recover. So this is actually measurable. So it has a name in the research, and it shows up more with running than with cycling because running beats up your legs more, your knees, your joints, your hips, your ankles, oh, your ankles. So, but look at how big the real effect is here, right? So let's actually look at who this applies to. So it shows up when you're doing a lot of it and doing it hard. And when you're doing it right before or right after you're lifting, there is a significance. Some training for a marathon, someone training for a marathon while trying to add 40 pounds to their squat, those goals are competing. So you're lifting 3 days a week and want to walk more and do 2 easy sessions. Those things are not fighting because it's programmed into it. That's what we call programming for workouts, for goals. You have to be specific in terms of what you want to achieve. If you compete, if you have two competing goals, it's going to be harder for you to actually achieve the goal that you want. So I will say the harder version. So if Marcus has not done cardio in 6 years, the thing hurting Marcus is not that cardio might slightly slow his squat. The thing hurting Marcus is his heart, his ability to recover between sets, and one flight of stairs at an airport. So cardio in itself, whether you're trying to you're trying to build muscle, cardio is also working on your heart muscle, which helps you with recovery. Your cardiovascular system is important. So that is important to state. So there is a place for everything. To understand what is your goal, you can do too much cardio where it competes with your strength goals, and it just becomes harder and you feel stuck and you completely ditch the cardio. So this is all important to understand and make note of. So here's the honest version now of lie 3. Cardio does not eat muscle. Too much cardio with too little food and too little sleep eats muscle. That is a dose problem. And you can fix a dose problem without quitting the whole thing forever. So this is what we need to really make sure that we understand. Even for me, that it took me some time to understand this. And I would say the only reason why I probably suffered or thought this was true was because I was not eating enough food. I was not eating enough food because I wake up, maybe have breakfast, and then you start working, and then maybe you have lunch, a light lunch, and then you have dinner. But I wasn't tracking my food. I wasn't seeing how much food I actually ate. And I knew, okay, the way that I'm doing it, I'm fine. I don't have to run. I manage my way through using my diet, and I don't need to run. And I don't need to do as much cardio. I did this like when I was starting for the first time because I was also skinny to begin with because I played sport and I just grew up playing sport as well. So that already required me to burn so much. So my metabolism was peak, it was fast. I used to burn a lot. And because I was swimming, I was running, and I was playing rugby, all of those things, all of those things just made me burn so much. And I would eat. You didn't have enough time to eat because you had scheduled breaks to eat. And sometimes you're not trying to get too full. And most of your diet is, I don't think I was eating enough protein to begin with. And the carbs, you eat so many carbs, and then you're like, okay, I'm good. I'm done. And yeah, like there was no tracking at all. Like I had no awareness of how important diet was to my nutrition and my goals. So that made me resent doing cardio because I didn't know how to put off the weight in reality or to put on more weight. If I ate more food, I didn't know how to put off all the weight properly. And if I also lost, if I kept on doing cardio, I was like, okay, how much am I going to eat? Like I just don't know, right? So without knowledge, without knowing, you just stick with whatever you know. And usually it might leave you creating beliefs in your mind which are not true and which don't help you. Right. So here's the whole thing that holds this episode. It's one line. Burn. One word. If you write it down, just one thing, or remember one thing, just remember this line. Burn is what you did. Burn is what you did. Refund is what your body took back. And keep is the only part that ever shows up on your body. And there are exactly 3 ways your body files that refund. 3, not 17. 3. And once you can name them, you will see them in your own week by Sunday. 3 ways. I'm going to get into it. Refund number 1, hunger. So you burn it and then you eat it back. And you do not notice because it does not come as one meal. It comes as a little more at breakfast, an extra serving, a little more at lunch, an extra snack, and something at 3 p.m. just to snack, give you a little boost before you go home. This is actually the sneakiest one. There is no moment, there is no scene, and nobody stands in a kitchen at midnight with a spoon. It is about 40 calories, yeah, let's say, and 120 there, and by dinner, it is gone. And here's what makes it worse. The harder and longer the session, the bigger the hunger. And the bigger the hunger, the less you notice it. Because you feel like you earned it, which you did, for sure. That is the cruel part about this. You did earn it. You just spent it. Just like that. Number 2, slow down. This is the big one. And almost nobody knows it exists. So you do your 45 minutes, and then the rest of the day, you move less. Fewer steps, elevator instead of stairs, park closer, sit down after dinner instead of walking around the block. You're not being lazy on purpose. You are tired, and your body's protecting itself. This is Emily, going from 9,000 steps to 4,000 on the days she works out. She thinks she added a workout. Her body, her body's books say that she's roughly traded one for the other. Here's a way to hold it. Your body has a budget for the day. When you spend a big chunk of the budget in one 45-minute block, your body finds savings elsewhere. And it's not going to ask you for permission. Refund number 3, wreckage. The third one is the most expensive. It is the one that people never count. Thursday is a lifting day. Wednesday, you did 45 hard minutes on the bike. So Thursday, your legs are dead. And you go lighter or shorter, or you skip it. Oh, that lift was the thing keeping your muscle on your body while you lose fat. And that is not a nice to have. That is the whole reason you end up looking better instead of just smaller. So the cardio you did to lose fat costs you the training that protects the way you look while you lose fat. That is not a trade. That is a robbery. And you helped. Now, put all three together because here is what you actually use. Before you choose any cardio, ask one question. Will this make me hungrier, stiller, or weaker tomorrow? Hungrier, stiller, weaker. If the answer is yes to any one of those, you did not burn 500. You burned maybe 250, maybe. And you're going to pay for it twice. Do you recognize any of the three refunds that I talked about? Hunger, slowdown, or wreckage? Be honest. Let me know in the chat or comments. Let me know which one you relate to the most. And now watch how this one idea explains all three lies at the same time. Lie number one, more is better. You said no. More burn also means more refund. So past the point, you are adding to both sides of the question. And the amount you keep barely changes while the cost your week goes way up. That is why the sixth day never fixed it. Lie number two, the fat burning zone. The fat burning zone, it does not matter which fuel you burn in the hour. It matters what you keep across the week. The sticker on your treadmill is answering a question that has nothing to do with your body changing. That is a general sticker. That is decoration. Line number three, cardio eats muscle. Only when the refund comes out of refund number three, fix the dose and the wreckage stops. And you get to keep the heart and lungs. One idea, three lies. That is why I built this whole entire episode on this. Okay, so what does a real week look like for someone who lifts 3 days and has a job, 3 slots, base, push, protect? That is the whole plan. Okay, remember the loop I planted at the start, the one kind of cardio your body almost cannot take back? Guess. Let's take a guess. Put it in the chat, put it in the comments. Comment something, drop something in the chat. Tell me if you can remember. Okay, so walking. That's it. That is the big secret. And it is so boring that people refuse to believe it. It took me years. I came to this realization probably 3 years ago or so, 4 years ago. Here is why it works. So if you go back to the 3 refunds, walking barely makes you hungrier. Walking does not make you sit down more later. It is the sitting down you're replacing. The walking does not wreck your legs for Thursday. Low burn per minute, almost no refund, which means you keep nearly all of it. And you can do this till you're 80, 90, 100. If there was one activity that you want to preserve in your entire life, one, not lifting weights, not jumping, not sprinting, not running a marathon, not high rocks, not CrossFit. It's walking. It is the most important physical function that you can do, walking. So important. I made a video before, if you go back, check out on the channel, and how I walked 30,000 steps. I think it was a week that I was walking in 30,000 steps. And that's when I was like, also shooting like a lot of the stretching content in different places. And I'll just walk the entire day, just shooting content, different places. I promise you, even like the stretching videos, when you see like my physique, that is mostly walking and stretching, mostly. Granted, like I was lifting weights before and I took a break from weights for a couple months, but still, the cardio, the last bit of weight that I dropped and lost was from walking, just walking. It's, I promise you, like I kid you not, that is it. So hard cardio is a big paycheck with big deductions. Walking is a small paycheck you take home in full. So here is the number. Look at what you do now for 1 week. Whatever your normal day is, add about 2,000 steps and hold it there. If you're at 5,000, go to 7,000. If you're at 8,000, go to 10,000. And do not go find 2,000 steps. Attach them to something you already do. So if it's like a puck at the far end, take a call standing and walking. If you're driving, sorry, like park at the far end and just walk to the store or go to the office. Take a call while you're standing or walking. Maybe 10 minutes after dinner. Go walk with someone that you like. Just catch up. That is it. And it is not a workout. And it will do more for you, for your fat loss, than the 5th elliptical session you ever did. And you can do this for a lifetime. Now, you still want a heart that works. This is important. I don't want to skip this part. So you need something that actually makes you breathe hard. 2 sessions a week, at least 20 to 30 minutes. One easy, one harder. The easy one is the pace where you could talk in a full sentence, but you would rather not. The hard one, you cannot talk, and it is short. You don't have to be, you don't have to be exerting so much, even if you don't do 20 minutes in the beginning, even if you do 5 minutes, just start because your body is going to adapt. Your heart is a muscle, it adapts. So just do that. Just 2 sessions a week. Something that you enjoy as well. That is important. Something that you enjoy. See how I didn't specify what it is? something you enjoy. And here's the part that matters more than the type itself. So pick something that does not beat up your legs. A bike, rower, incline. Walk on the treadmill, which is walking, that thinks that it is running, right? So if you're walking incline, sometimes your heart rate goes up. I find myself that actually helps me a lot, like the incline walk. I actually enjoy walking a lot more. Ski machine, if your gym has one. I've seen a lot of people who do high rocks, they prefer those. I think there's like what you call it sandbagging, like the sandbags where you, yeah, no, what's that? The bowl where you hit the bowl onto the wall. I'm forgetting what they call those. Not a CrossFit guy or high rocks guy. Maybe I might do it once, but not really my thing, I guess. I just find it so much hype around it. Okay, so that is what I do now personally, right? So I am better at this than I was when I was competing. So cycling, walking, steady state in the gym, walking, watching my zones, I actually do that. 30 to 60 minutes, and that is it. So not fast in double sessions. And now I don't have shin pain. And I've also gotten better at figuring out the types of shoes that I need to wear, which is one of the most important things. And I'm far better at spotting for actually living and doing like this type of cardio than I was before. And it really helps. So last note here, like please, please, please hear this from me because the version of me before that was doing like the fasted cardio, running, sprinting on a treadmill is also like the surface that you run on. If you're running full pace and doing hard cardio, the surface that you move on and that you run on, if it's hard, it's going to be hard on your knees, it's going to be hard on your joints, it's going to be hard on your feet. So make sure you're protecting your joints, make sure you're protecting your feet. Because for me, the version of me that did the most cardio is not the version of me that I think you should copy. This is more of a warning. These are the mistakes. Of course, you go back and say, okay, what are the lifting mistakes that I made when I was starting out to work out and lift? This is definitely one of them. And sometimes you always think that the harder the better. Sometimes it's not the harder the better. The more you know, the better it becomes. So for me, that version, which, the mentality, I think a lot of people who compete in bodybuilding have that mentality as well. Like, oh, it's got to be hard. Oh, I got to train. I got to do this. Like, it's such a mentality of like pushes you towards a level of like punishment. You're sort of like punishing your own body. So that is not what you want for longevity, for wellness, for health. You can achieve so much without pain, without feeling like you got hit by a truck. You can do so much. So you don't need that version of like intensity. You don't need it all the time. There's a place for it, but it's not like the standard. It's not what you need all the time. But yeah, definitely your heart, don't get me wrong, your heart, you need to work it out. It's a muscle. You need to go hard, but not to make yourself feel like this is boring. I don't want to do this anymore. Because it's better to do it consistently for years than to go intense for like 1 month, 2 months, and then you quit. That's not what you want. So the third slot right here is a rule, not a workout. Your 3 lifting days are the last thing you get to cut. And the first thing, to get protected, ever. Okay? I'll repeat that again. If you only have 3 days to work out in a week, your 3 lifting days are the last thing to get cut and the first thing to get protected, ever. So if you have to choose between a cardio session and a lifting session, you lift every single time, not close. So place the cardio where it cannot hurt the lift. First options in order. On a day you're not lifting, or after you lift, not before. Or on the morning, or in the morning, if you lift at night. And the worst option, the one half of you are doing right now, I'm almost certain, 30 minutes of cardio right before you squat. Then you wonder why your legs feel like they can't take on, or they're weak, or they belong to somebody else. That is what you want to avoid. That is the worst option. So be strategic about your cardio. Protect the lifting days. Protect those as much as you can. And then your cardio, because your cardio, like, this is the part about your heart. Like, within a week or 2 weeks, you can actually improve your cardio so much. Even like, within a week, your heart adapts very fast as long as you're consistent. You're doing it over and over and over and over again. So that's fitness training, that's conditioning for your heart, which is so important. Cannot emphasize that more than enough. So make sure you do that. So let's rebuild Emily's week here so that you can see it. If we're rebuilding Emily's week, so Monday, Emily lifts. Tuesday, 25 minutes, easy on the bike after work, plus a walk after dinner. Wednesday, she lifts again. Thursday, 20 minutes, and 8 of those minutes are hard, plus her walk. Friday, lift. Weekend, she lives her life and gets her steps because she's out with the kids anyway. Or maybe goes on a date night with her husband. So count the change. She went from 5 cardio sessions to 2 cardio sessions. The total cardio time dropped from about 4 hours to under an hour. And here's what she gets. She's not starving at 3 p.m. Her steps went up instead of down because she's not too tired to move. She hits all 3 lifting days now instead of 2. And she's getting stronger, which means she keeps her muscle while the fat comes off. And she got 2 mornings back. You see how that works out? So before I take any questions, if there are any, 4 things I'm not going to fudge here. So 1, if you have knee, hip, ankle, or back pain, or you're coming back from an injury, surgery, do not run. Bike, walk, row, swim, as you're instructed by your doctor, and seek medical advice. This is for information and as entertainment purposes only. Talk to your talk to a healthcare professional, your doctor, because this is not medical advice. And if it hurts, during any of those activities, it's probably not the one for you. So keep that in mind. Listen to your body. Get someone qualified to look at it. That is not me being careful here, but this is me also telling you that I have watched people train through shin pain for months, including myself. And the second thing, if you're on a GLP-1 medication, your hunger signal is already turned down. So refund 1 looks different for you, but refund 3 gets more important, not less, because keeping your muscle is a bigger deal on those medications. So you have to lift. Talk to your doctor again. That conversation is not mine to have. And 3, if you're pregnant or over 60, starting from nothing, or you have a heart condition, this episode is not your plan. So keep that in mind. Go get a real one from someone who knows your history, because that is important. Your doctor can probably tell you what you can or you cannot do. And 4, again, this is education, not medical advice. I'm not your doctor, but I am a coach, a fitness coach, certified personal trainer, certified fitness coach. And I do work with people one-on-one as well. So if anyone is interested in working together, you can also apply for coaching. The links are in the description. So chat, all right, let's go. So I'm watching. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat, drop them in the comments, and I can help you with it. And before or after lifting, if your only option is before, keep it under 10 minutes and keep it easy because that is a warm-up, not a session. So make sure that you figure out like, okay, if I'm doing my cardio before or after, just make sure that you don't force your body, you don't stall your progress when you're working out, right? If it's after training, keep it light. If you're doing it before your session, keep it light. Usually I go max 5 minutes if I'm doing some sort of like warm up. It's 5 minutes of cardio before the session. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys have for questions for me, and then we can talk about it in the next chat. And then one thing, right? So one thing, a challenge, yeah. So one thing, not a program, not a challenge, the 7-day refund test. So for 1 week, write down the 3 things a day. Write down 3 things a day, which takes about 20 seconds. 1, your steps. So you want to start tracking stuff. I'm a big tracker. So I recommend you to track stuff, keep note of things. So track your steps. 2, yes or no. Were you hungry? Were you hungrier than usual today? 3, yes or no. Did you skip or shorten a lift? That's it. 3 things for 7 days. Just track that. That's like a little journal. Let's call it that, right? So that you can track your cardio, how you feel. Are you feeling hungrier? Excuse me. What were the steps that you got in a day? And then you can build from that. And remember, you can add 2,000 steps a day, doing something that you already do. Don't just go out randomly just to try and get more steps, but the things that you already do, right? So at least by the end of the week, you will be able to look at the page and see exactly which of your cardio is getting refunded and which you're actually keeping. Nobody can tell you that from nobody can tell you that from the outside, because not even me, not a coach, not a watch, not a tracker, but your week has the answer in it, and the numbers will tell you what is going on. So you want to keep track of that. Make sure that you're keeping a journal somewhere where you can track your workouts, whether it's like a tracker, a logger. But do that. Do that. And last thing, I want you to go back to the guy who was doing 90 minutes of cardio a day with shins that hurt and a pizza box in his hands 1 week from the show. Here's what I have to say about him. He was not weak. He was aimed at one day and he hit it. But if I had taken that plan and handed it to you for your life, with your job, with your kids, and the 3 days that you have for training, I would have not be coaching you. I would have been handing you my old prep and calling it help. And that's not coaching. That's just simply giving you something that I believed in at the time based on what I was doing, prepping for a show. Because you're not prepping for a show. You're prepping for the next 30 years of being useful to the people that you need, that who need you, that depend on you. So there is a big difference right there. And then next week, we're going to come back and I'll tell you, you first actually, you tell me what you found when you're tracking for the 7 days. Because next week, we're opening up the app and I'm going to show you exactly how to log your cardio and your steps in heavy so that this stops being a thing you guess at. 7 days, 3 things a day. I'll see you next Thursday.